Okay, sounds good.
Hi, patrons.
Hey, patrons, different day, different time.
Mini, mini time.
Mini time.
That's
All
right.
right, I am ready when you are, my friend. We are going to cover fake news.
It's fake. Still exporting. It'll take me just a second. Um,
Okay, yeah, no
oh,
worries.
they added a way for me to cancel the export. Oh, that's so nice of them. Um, Man, I couldn't do that for the longest time. This must be a brand new feature. Like there'd be times when I meant to like save the episode or even like delete part of the episode or something, and I actually would export it, and I just have to wait like a few minutes while it did its whole thing because I couldn't cancel. I'm like,
Uh,
no. So now that they give me a
no.
cancel button, I'm very happy. Like, doesn't happen a lot, but it happens enough that I'm always
Happens
greatly
enough, yeah.
annoyed.
Yeah,
Man, I haven't brushed my teeth yet this morning. I just like ran straight down here and got ready.
that's okay. We got shit to do.
Yeah.
We like to party.
Uh, I'll likely not have time to floss this morning. I'll have to do it tomorrow or tonight or later. I don't know.
Do it whenever you like. You're an adult.
That's what they tell me. All right. I think this is 51, mini 51.
Yes.
And this one is called Fake News. Doing a quick test. Vocal levels already look fine. Cool. All right. Ready?
I am ready.
All right. It'll count us down in three, two, one, go. Welcome to Why We Do What We Do Mini. I'm your host, Abraham.
And I'm Shane.
We are a psychology podcast. We talk about all of the things. Oh my gosh, words this morning. We talk about the things that humans and non-human animals do, and we release these short form episodes that are just a quick 10 to 15 minute dive into a topic, and that's it. And we just talk. We do that, and these come out on Mondays. We release full length episodes on Wednesdays. And if you're joining us for the first time, then like welcome. This will be quick. We'll get in here and then we'll get out, and that's what our Monday episodes are like. If you're returning, then welcome back. We're happy to have you here. Either way, if you'd like to support us, you can do that by leaving a rating and a review, liking, subscribing, telling a friend, picking up some merch at our merch store, or joining us over on Patreon. And if you join us on Patreon, I'm going to read your name at the end of our full length discussions. But our minis, we just get in that topic and then we get out of there. And I think that's all the preamble I need before we get started.
Yeah, I think that covers it.
Great. Well, this episode is about fake news. The episode itself is not fake news, although I gotta say, it is very truly serendipitous that this is published right before April Fool's Day, which is like the
Yeah.
day of fake news.
Yeah, absolutely. Like what good timing. And we've been talking about doing something like this for a while, but it just feels like the right time to cover this topic.
Yeah. This has been on the list, I think, since we started making a list of topics for minis, and
Yeah.
finally just sort of got around to it. So as I said, this is going to be called fake news because that's what we're talking about. You could also call this the Dictator's Guide to Destroying the World, Chapter One. It's also kind of like a
Hmm.
basic primer on misinformation and disinformation. And I do think, particularly after like assembling the notes and thoughts for this is really worth a full discussion. It's a pretty complex and nuanced issue. We could break down the distinction between misinformation, disinformation, propaganda, and fake news. But we will do our best to sort of unpack a Cliff's Notes version of the idea of fake news in this discussion today.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's just go ahead and just dive into it. I think that we've got a lot to unpack here.
We do.
All right. So, fake news, alternative facts, misinformation, disinformation, propaganda. There are a lot of terms that sort of broadly fit into this category of techniques to manipulate people. But it's really important to remember that knowledge is power. And one way to gain, protect, or expand power is to control and even dictate what constitutes knowledge.
So, fake news, as we're talking about it here, this is content that is presented as news, as information, in that it is supposed to communicate some information or knowledge, but it is fabricated in part or in whole and lacks verifiable sources, quotes, or evidence.
Right. So, for instance, Donald Trump claimed that Ukraine started the war with Russia. This is 100% false. It is demonstrably incorrect, right? It could not be more wrong. It is the opposite of correct because, of course, Russia started the war. A fact that no one disputed until this bizarre, belligerent claim emerged from thin air.
Yes. Now, fake news, interestingly, is kind of a triple threat. It can do a lot of bad very quickly. It's very efficient at doing bad things. First, bad actors will intentionally spread and proliferate fake news because they can do this to influence public opinion, like opinion and attitudes. Which, and what I'm saying is, like, they make it up completely, or again, there could be like a kernel of truth, a nugget of truth in there, and but they twist it and manipulate it so that it's wrong, and they specifically put that information out there.
Right. They also call real news fake news to bias people against legitimate reporting. So it gets people kind of questioning the sources, questioning legitimate information, questioning consensus, even in a
Yeah.
lot of different places.
And in the third prong of this approach is that in the ensuing chaos of lacking any coherent source upon which we can all agree, what can happen is that people start accepting any source that they are biased toward as the real information and all else as being fake. And so then they it's easier to implement and use propaganda when you have discredited people who are highly reputable and like believable and trustworthy, but you've made it so that people no longer trust them or believe them, and then you can sort of just put out all the information you want that whether or not it's accurate will get some people believing it because they don't know what to believe.
Right. And so this is kind of how it works. Dictators in general. This is like dictators for dummies, dictators
Yeah,
101. This is the intro class for dictators.
yeah, chapter
Um,
one.
Yeah. What they do is they often start by criticizing the media as biased, fake, or propaganda. Simultaneously, they will start publishing actual fake news propaganda and call it legitimate. And people who have authoritarian leanings tend to accept the narrative being pushed by the dictators, who are nearly universally right wing, because their preference is for that form of social control.
Yes. So like they're more likely to go ahead and be persuaded by that because they already have tendencies in that direction, much like we might have tendencies toward or away from ads.
Ooh.
All right. We're back. We've been just unpacking sort of what fake news is. But let's get into why this happens. Like, what are the motives for people here? But it's important to remember that this is complicated. There are a lot of reasons and there's a lot of nuance. But here's some to consider. There are very common ways that this appears and what it's doing and why.
Right. So first you've got satire or parody, and the Onion does this beautifully. If you are like a punk in the punk and hardcore scene, then the Hard Times .net also does a really good job of this.
Nice.
Where it's like it seems like it's real enough, but like it's also it's meant to be silly. And Toby Morse as well does a really good job of setting up parody websites for current politicians, and they are so mad about it.
Yeah, nice. Mad Magazine was another one that I think did a lot of this, where they would sort of do like intentionally funny satirical pieces.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Another way this shows up is impersonating real sources. This is a bad actor who is trying to bias people against a source of information by pretending to be a part of that source or representing that source, and then doing it very poorly and making it look bad. So this would be like if Tucker Carlson started saying that he worked for Fox News or worked for CNN or something, and was spouting a bunch of crap, then people might be like, "Wow, CNN is full of it." Like they're really, even though he is not even remotely related to any of their operation.
Right, exactly. It can also be misleading, and this can be used to control a narrative by leaving out key pieces of information or presenting a heavily biased version of the information. So they might report the actual event and then twist it or change it or alter some fact, not even alter it, but like just leave out something really important about whatever that event was.
Yes. There is also, of course, fabricating. This is a narrative that is completely made up. It is based on nothing. It is almost always used to try and persuade people. Sometimes it is to stoke fear about something. Sometimes it is to cast doubt on something. But it is whatever it is. It has no. It is completely baseless. It is not grounded in reality at all.
Yes. There's also manipulated content. And this is when genuine information has been manipulated to deceive the audience. It might be like a snippet or a sound bite of a particular event or a circumstance or something that somebody said, like Howard Dean during his presidential election campaign. That snippet of him yelling in front of the crowd was manipulated content because he was
Mhm.
yelling, the crowd was yelling, all stuff, but they elevated the vocals on him and they only included that snippet of him yelling and they called it the Dean scream or something like that, and it ruined his
Mhm.
entire political career.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. That is definitely a strategy. There is also false association. So this one needs a little bit of context to help unpack it here. This is supplemental content that doesn't actually support the presented content, but is intended to mislead. So, like, it's often like a picture that goes along with the headline. Well, that picture is not actually the thing that's in the headline, but is meant to be evocative and sort of just push your emotions a little bit. So there's a specific instance that occurred not that long ago. Fox News did this when they were presenting on there was this huge winter storm that hit Texas a couple years ago, and that resulted in these major power outages with people like didn't have heat or didn't have cooling or they did, their houses flooded, and they in what was happening during this huge freeze, they showed images of these windmills that were completely frozen over. And then they blamed the power outages on wind power. However, the images that they showed were actually from a totally different country. Like they were not only not from Texas, they
Right.
were not even from the United States. And ironically, in this case, it was the wind power that was more operational than the traditional coal powered plants that were failing in this storm.
Right. Right.
So they were trying to essentially push this agenda that it was green energy was to blame for the power outage, even though the green energy was working more. And the image that they presented, the false association, was a picture that was not even of the windmills in their own like local area.
Again, easily and demonstrably false. Like you can find
Yes.
that information so rapidly.
Yeah.
Um, another thing to do is false context. And so basically what this means is when this is when actual information is shared but using false or incorrect context. So as an example, the White House released some immigration numbers comparing rates during Biden's administration and Trump's, purporting that a 95% decrease from between the two administrations. However, the context was incorrect and misleading. The Biden numbers were an average of a 7-day period. Trump's numbers were from the daily average, a 1-day period, two different data sets that in two different measures, really. Also, the two data sets were aggregated, likely strategically from points that reflect the desired summary because immigration numbers ebb and flow, and so the data aggregators seem to have selected a particularly high sample window from of time for Biden and a particularly low sample window for Trump. So they basically just like manipulated the data and provided false context for all of these talking points.
Yeah, so it was like there was a decrease, even if you were to like look at the daily average from that 7-day period, there was a decrease. But they're like, but these ebb and flows happen all the time. Like all they had to do was pick a period of time when it was during a flow period and a time was during an ebb period, and they could have gotten basically the same numbers for Biden or for Trump.
Right.
But instead they're like, here's a total of 7 day or a total over 7 days for Biden or a total over 1 day for Trump, and calling that a 95% decrease. Again, with the
Right.
intention to mislead people.
Right.
Okay, there's so much to do, but a summary of all of that to just get out of here, and we're just going to have to come back and do a much deeper dive on this. Is that calling trustworthy, reputable media fake news is a tactic to delegitimize good faith reporting and to create confusion and sow discord, to create an opening to control the narrative, to essentially be able to manipulate people by having them distrust those sources that are actually trustworthy.
Right. And spreading deliberately incorrect, harmful, or misleading information further erodes trust in reporting and can influence people who are hoodwinked by it. It can actually change public opinion and cause a lot of major impacts on the communities at large.
And as far as what we can do about this, well, one thing is to verify sources. So, like fake news that is fake can be found out because it lacks evidence. It does not have credible or verifiable sources, and it can be fact checked. Like you can go and find the actual information and be like, oh,
Right.
that's completely wrong. So, like, it's a lot more work, and I know that that's not something that a lot of people are going to do, but I think that the people who are committed to trying to help move things in the right direction, they can um, these are things that they could be doing, is like to be able to point. And Snopes I think is a really good example of this. Like that's a website where they kind of all they do is debunk false claims that exist out there.
Right.
And so that's a good source to potentially look at and see, is this credible. And they're also very good at being, I think, pretty unbiased. Matter of fact, I think they're much friendlier to some of the people on the right than they need to be. But they do a pretty good job of just like unpacking any claim whatsoever and then saying like there is no evidence for this or there is.
Right. Exactly.
All right. Well, we went that's about a right amount of time, I think.
Yeah,
But
it
we're
feels
gonna
good.
we're gonna wrap up this discussion on this mini on fake news. Is there anything you'd like to add or anything that I forgot before we close this one out?
Not at the moment.
Thank you all for listening. As I said, you can support us over on Patreon, or do the like, subscribe, tell a friend thing, or pick up some merch at our merch store. You can also leave us a rating and review. And if you'd like to reach out to us, email us directly at info@wwd podcast, or on the social media platforms. But we're at our time. So thank you all for listening. Thank you for recording with me today, Shane. Thank you to my team. And this is Abraham.
This is Shane.
So why we do what we do mini is out.
Bye.
Beautiful.
All right.
Did it.
Yeah, not too bad. Not too shabby.
All right. I super got a boogie. So bye, patrons.
Yeah, no worries. Bye, patrons.